So at my school, we're planning on starting the game dev course next year, and I am planning on using Unity for a majority of the course. But I would like students to get a little bit of an understanding of gameplay theory and have them build some games that don't require a computer, at least to begin with. And I think that can help them focus on the idea of a game, what a gameplay actually is, the idea of gameplay loops, which I have separate lessons already written for. And I'll be pulling some excerpts out of some Justin Gary books for how to be a game dev, just to kind of set the expectation for the full scope of what it is that we're doing. In our school, we have pathways, so this will probably be the first class in a pathway of 2 classes, and the second path will probably be advanced game techniques, primarily with Unity, and maybe even mixing in a little bit of VR. But after that first unit of talking about games, what games are, gameplay loops, the purpose of games, and they've built their first paper-based board game, I'll start with introducing Unity and go through pretty much the same kind of path that we took during our training course this summer. A lot of my students that come into this course will probably already have some basic understanding of 3D. I'm anticipating that a lot of the students that come in will already have had me in a different course, or possibly in my animation course. And even if they haven't, the tools and the lesson that we went through for getting kind of familiar with moving things around in 3D, I think are a great start. I also want to make it mandatory to do the interactive museum exhibit that we also did during the training course. I think that was a good way to kind of focus on some of the basics of moving things in a 3D space without worrying too much about gameplay mechanics yet. So get familiar enough with the tools and navigating, because I think that once you're able to navigate, move things around, and place objects in a fairly efficient manner, that everything else becomes a little bit quicker, and you can actually focus on some of the gameplay mechanics instead of trying to figure out how to navigate around within the software. And then they'll go and choose a tutorial to follow. So right now I only have the tank demo there listed, but there were a couple others and I can't remember them offhand. I was trying to find them that they'll probably be able to choose from. I won't give them too many choices. It'll only be a choice of actually maybe 2 different ones to do. I need to make sure that the tutorials hit about the same type of skills. And if they don't, then I'll just stick with the tank demo. I think that was fun enough, and you end with a product they can play with and kind of test, and also mod at some point if you want as well. In fact, I think reading through some of the curriculum, there was a mod for it at some point where it wasn't tanks, it was something else. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was. So building off of that, they've created a game at that point, even though it's kind of a step-by-step process. Then adding in more information and knowledge about adding audio, VFX, UI, talking about UIs in terms of how it can assist in a game and provide that visual feedback of what's actually happening on screen, whether it's the life counter or time or something else like that. That will be focused on that. After that, we'll start talking about animation. I have a background in animation. I would like to interject a portion of that when thinking about things and objects moving on screen. I know that Unity handles a lot of stuff on the back end to help with this, but I think that having that additional knowledge of why things move the way they do and how to possibly change them to move better or in a more interesting way will be really beneficial for my students in the long run. Unit 7 I have called Making Stuff Cool. A lot of prototyping, you're focused on just the placement and movement, and a lot of that is just like the gray boxing of things. So in Unit 7, focusing on materials and lighting, I have some stuff to show for lighting left over from animation or carrying over from animation. I'd like to interject that into the lesson as well. Unit 8, I'm assuming that it'll take about till the end of the year, or at least the last 2.5 months to get to this point, where they will start being able to prototype their own game. First talking about video game genres, helping to keep them, whatever project they choose, within scope of the time and their current skills, which usually kind of scale up. Their desire and their ambition scales up quite a bit at this point. But to keep it within context of the time that we have. So introduction to game genres prototype, probably kind of a gray box prototype for advanced students that want to start adding more dynamic lighting or materials. Will be welcome to do so. Also, a lot of emphasis on taking notes during the development of this and tracking development. And at this point, I'll start talking about GitHub and version control. I think towards the end of the year, and almost acting as a bridge into the next class is probably the best time to talk about this. And I think this rounds out an intro class for high school pretty well, based on teaching, similar courses, over the last 10 or 12 years. So this is my plan for the course. Hopefully this kind of meets your expectation of what we would show during this part. The course was great. Loved it. Instructors, you guys are great. And can't wait to take the next one.